and that is going to,
yeah,
and hoping for the best, and I think that will register with policymakers elsewhere.
But the question is going to be, have they entered a currency war, and is this step one of a myriad of steps?
Well, there's a good argument that says that we've been in a currency war for 15 years and China's been part of it. But if we're talking about over the course of the last couple of years, potentially, in a very, very, very small way, could be the first salvo of exactly that. That's why it matters what happens over the next few days. If we see a currency that's starting to move as it was doing in late 2013 or all of 2014, when we saw a lot greater flexibility in the currency and China seemed to be making good on its policies or promises about shifts in policy, then great. We'll accept that this was just an adjustment. But if we go back to fixed peg, that's a very different story.
Simon, when you say this will register with policymakers elsewhere, are you thinking of the Fed or actually emerging markets?
Absolutely,
but so that you think the Fed interest rate hike is at risk?
No, but I think that they will take very close note of the fact that China, if they believe that China is manipulating its currency, over time I think that they will look at that when they're thinking about their own policy. Go back to 2001 and 2002, when there was that very clear battle between China, Japan and the US over currency policy. There was the battle of rhetoric. Ultimately, what the US did back then, of course, was a policy of benign neglect. Obviously, they always denied that that's what they did, but the dollar still went down by 30%. I don't think the US is willing to let other people play that game after trying to end the currency wars by doing what it did.
Simon, we've seen some pretty big moves in terms of reaction. Aussie, Kiwi, the ringgit, etc. Are those moves overdone? Are they oversold?
No, I don't think they are, in fairness, because I think they are a fairly reasonable reflection of people's concerns about currency policy shift. And if we are going back to that kind of world, which is a world we've not been in for several years, then entirely understandably people will think that people will themselves want to go for keeping their currencies competitively priced. Nobody wants to see themselves being undervalued. It's the race to the bottom argument.
Simon, thanks so much. Simon Derrick there from Bank of New York Mellon.
Meanwhile, China has released pictures of a new 100 yuan note that will be in circulation from November. The PBOC says it will be harder to forge, but easier for machines to read. There you go. The design is largely similar to the 2005 series, but has enhanced security features.
It is the largest note in the Chinese currency, worth around $15, and will be in circulation from November 12th. Now, this is another story that we're watching. Of course, it's Greece. An EU official says Greece and creditors have agreed terms for a third bailout. The country's parliament must now pass the measures required by creditors before a meeting of euro area finance ministers that's scheduled for Friday.
Etoro Electric has restarted the #1 reactor at its Sendai nuclear plant, marking Japan's return to atomic energy, more than 4 years after the Fukushima disaster. Protesters camped outside the facility, and the polls suggest that a majority of Japanese voters oppose the return of nuclear power.
Now, Prudential, the UK's largest insurer, reported a first-half profit that beat analyst estimates, led by gains in Asia. Now, operating income climbed to £1.8 billion. It's the first set of results under the new CEO, Mike Wells.
Up next, Google spells out a new future. We break down the ABCs of that.